Serena, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm such a big fan. This was on my bucket list. So
Really?
This and the Met Gala. So yeah, thank you for having me.
You mentioned confidence coach. You have from what I could gather, a very loyal and diehard following and fan base. And I'm just curious, where do you think that comes from? What it is about your style from relationship advice that you're sharing, or from a confidence standpoint? Because that's the energy I saw from afar, is like you are very self-confident in who you are, you know who you are, and how, as a confidence coach, I'm curious, how have you tried to share that? Because I feel like that's probably one of the hardest things to get people to learn, is to be confident. I sometimes wonder if it's either you got it or you don't, or you can learn certain behaviors, but it's generally hard to teach.
Well, thank you for saying that. I think that I'm kind of like, I see myself as like the Regina George, but like the nice version, like bullying you into loving yourself is kind of my vibe. And I think that like people like being told what to do. I think life is way too short. And I think that if people were really honest with themselves, then they could move on from things that don't serve them quicker. I think that confidence is something that we're all born with. I think that as we grow up and we see ourselves, or we see a lack of something, whether it's media that we are watching or a comment made by someone, that's when we begin to question our self-worth. And I think the way to go back to that is literally to just become your own best friend. And to think about every single person in your life that you respect and love. Like, you're constantly admiring them. I mean, I already told you I liked your book. I want you to follow me. Like, I'm literally giving you so much love. Now, what if I did that to myself? Like, literally physically got in front of a mirror and like spoke to myself and I was like, you're a bad fucking bitch.
Do you do that?
All the time. So much so that when I was 18, I changed my million to fucking. To remember. So whenever I'd forget, I'd be like, you're Serena fucking Kerrigan. And I think that people like that because it gives them permission to be confident. I think that I created this persona on the internet even before I did it when I was 18, to really remind myself to be confident. And I really tapped into this persona whenever I was feeling down on myself. And so she was like this character that I could embody, kind of like a Lady Gaga, Sasha Fierce. Like, we all have it maybe, or we should, because it really did help me. But I think that when I go on, whenever I feel insecure or anxious about something, I turn her on, and I think it can come off a little like abrasive or aggressive. I think it's learning how to be okay with being vulnerable and not turning on that SFK persona. That's what I'm working on, because it comes off intimidating and vicious, as someone said to me recently on a date.
Vicious?
They called me vicious.
Can you give more context?
But then like they were down to keep, no, that was it. Like, that was the just word to describe
like, you're
it.
vicious.
Yeah, but it was like kind of hot and turned me on.
Yeah.
We have another date. So, but I'm learning to be okay being softer and leaning into my feminine energy. And I think that, you know, when you're running a business or you have a career as a woman, like, you know, you're constantly leaning in, you're constantly trying to get a seat at the table, metaphorically speaking. And then I'm learning on dates, like, I do want someone that has masculine energy. I do want to kind of like lean back and have them lead. Like, I genuinely want that. But this SFK persona is so bad bitch masculine, calling the shots, that like I have to kind of turn her down.
Sure. What do you think is the biggest challenge in the heterosexual dating space between men and women? I feel like the gap is only widening in terms of the frustrations that the genders are having with one another. You're actively in the dating space. How do you see kind of the dating landscape between heterosexual men and women who are trying to date each other? Because it seems like there's a lot of contention and frustration. What are some things that you think you would like to see men step up and do better? And what are some things that you think women could maybe, you know, step up and do their part as well to, you know, bridge that gap between the genders?
I think a lot of it comes down to communication. I think everything comes down to communication. I think that what I've noticed is that and I don't think that there's really a middle ground in this. Like, it's very obvious to me when there's a man that wants to be in a relationship and one that doesn't.
Did we all see Keke Palmer's pregnancy announcement during her SNL hosting stand? First of all, iconic.
What an iconic.
Yeah, can we take a moment to appreciate Keke Palmer, Akilah and the Bee, amazing movie. Jump In with Corbin Bleu. Do people remember this era of movies? But also, I have a question for the group, which is, if you, assuming like kind of world's your oyster, you have all of these, any opportunity you could ever want, like, where would you want to have a huge pregnancy announcement? Like Met Gala, hosting SNL, like those kinds of like top tier
Met Gala.
Met Gala. I
Boom.
mean, you can have a Met Gala.
Thanks.
Pregnancy announcement.
SNL is pretty iconic.
Yeah.
That's great.
And also the reveal.
Beyonce did it at the VMAs,
Yeah,
right?
it's very similar little jacket situation.
It's more fun for you if you're pregnant at the Met Gala. I feel like there's a lot to work with.
Nick is like,
Nick is thinking like, how can I?
What do you think of couples who are like, we're pregnant?
How do you feel about that? Are you gonna say that? I'm sorry, that was
weird.
Would you ever say that?
When like couples are like, we're pregnant?
One of my
as opposed to,
biggest
"I am
pet
pregnant."
peeves.
I honestly, I don't think I've ever thought about it. So it would be disingenuous to me, but to say, oh, I would never think about that because I already know the room and how they feel about that.
He's gonna answer inauthentically.
So I don't know how to.
So the answer is he would say we're pregnant.
I don't think we would. I have no problem at all letting her get all the credit for all of that. You know.
Well, I think there's a difference too. You can say we are having a baby or we're going to be parents, but it's the we're pregnant. No, we're not.
Yeah, I really agree.